Hey everybody, how was your weekend? Mine was insane. Between a new sponsor, getting to broadcast, Irene being an alternate, I feel like Bob Cole. Everything is happening. Hockey reference for those of you who didn't get it. All right, episode 14, Pickleball Diaries. We're covering the CNPL Western Split. Here we go.
Oh, what a shot.
All right, so if you didn't see my Instagram post, I am now sponsored. So this episode is brought to you by Aniviia Pickleball. They're a Canadian-based company out of the heart of Vancouver. Their pro athlete is Nathan Choi of the CNPL. I got to meet Nathan and Christine Fan, who's one of the owners of the company, at the CNPL split this weekend. Awesome, nice people. So big thank you to them for taking a chance on us. Before they ever reached out, though, I have been using their Voltex G3 Pro paddle at the last two tournaments. So it's a raw carbon paddle. It's been given insane grip. My resets have been awesome with it, so I'm definitely not switching back. I use their midweight. It comes in a midweight and a lightweight. Irene, while we were there, tested out the lightweight paddle, and she really likes it, and she's going to be switching to that. So for podcast listeners, if you go to the Aniviia.com website, enter in A Gorman 15 at the checkout, and you get 15% off your order. That's AGORMAN 15. All right, so big thank you to them once again, and let's move on to the rest of the episode. All right, so before we jump to the videos of me doing updates on site, I noticed very, very quickly that when you're there live, it's a lot harder to focus on one match because there was so many good rallies going on. So you're going to notice my updates from the live stuff is more of a recap of some of the games. I tried to be a little bit more thorough on the Sunday, but honestly, like you finish one rally on one side, you glance over and there's another insane rally going. This was insanely good pickleball this weekend. So we'll jump to those and then we'll do the review after. Hey everybody, we're here for day one of the CNPL Western Split here in Edmonton. We got the teams warming up right now. There's the main courts there. Over here we got the practice courts where teams not playing are warming up and the alternates are going to warm up, so Irene will be warming up there later. So it looks like the first matches are going to be the Pronghorns versus the Smash and then the Wolverines versus the Lions, so we'll check in after that game's over. All right, so after the first games are done, we have the West Coast Wolverines beating the Montreal Lions out. They're technically playing their last set right now, as you can see there, but the Wolverines took the first three, so they got the match win. All the games were super close, so they all went to 14-14 before the Wolverines pulled out the win. On the other side, the Pronghorns took out the Toronto Smash. Surprisingly for the Toronto Smash, they have both their regular male players are away today. Chris and Lane will be in tomorrow to play. So they had two alternates playing, but they held their own pretty well. The women won the first match in the women's doubles, but then the Pronghorns went on a three-match win streak to take the game. So both Pronghorns and the Wolverines starting off the day with wins, and the next game's coming up. We got Toronto United versus the Rush, and then we have the Brewers versus the Northern Rollers. So we'll see how those go. All right, so second games are done. The Toronto United team took out the Rush 3-1. Tight game in the final one there. The guys for the Rush almost brought it back. It was 14-14, but lost in the final one. And then the Brewers took out the Northern Rollers in 3-1 as well. Once again, the Rollers women get the one-set win for them, but still very tight matches. So so far, so good for the day, and we'll check in after that. All right, so we had the other games just end. So we had the Toronto United take out the Rollers. The Rollers did force the do-or-die singles match, but still going over still on the win column. And then we had the Pronghorns take out the Lions. Same thing, Lions gave a pretty good fight, but Pronghorns just basically edged them out. So we got going on now. We have the Rush versus the West Coast Wolverines. And then we have over here, we have, the Smash versus the West Coast Wolverines. Then we have the Rush versus the Brewers. So it's two really good matches going on, and I'll get right to it. All right, guys, we're back. So the Rush just took out the Smash. The Smash did put up a valiant effort, but the Rush were a little bit too much for them, and they won 3-1 in that game. The Wolverines and the Toronto United team went to extra points, so that singles match to 15. Wolverines pulled out the 14-15 win. It was an insanely good match. Matt on Toronto United looked like he injured himself partway through there, so hopefully it's nothing too serious, and he'll be able to come back strong in their game coming up in a bit here. We're about to watch the Pronghorns versus the Brewers, and then the Rollers versus the Lions. So stay tuned for that one. All right, hey guys, we're here for day 2. First matches are just starting. We have the Smash versus the Brewers to start, and then we have Toronto United versus the Montreal Lions. So after the first day, the West Coast Wolverines were undefeated. I also noticed just trying to watch both matches at the same time, I wasn't getting as good of an analytical look at the game, so I'm going to try and focus on one game per morning or per group for this day, and then we'll go from there. I think I'll be able to give you guys a little bit better look. So I'm going to focus on the United versus Lions game for this startup here. I'll still give you the recap of what happened in the other one, but I'll be able to give you a better, more in-depth thing of what happened. So also good news, Matt Quanamoto is playing today. They weren't sure if he was going to be able to play after yesterday. It looked like his concussion was resurfacing, but he seems to be okay, and he's wearing a hat today to deal with the bright lights here. So we'll update you after the games are over, and stay tuned. All right, guys, so the first games of the day just ended. We had the Toronto United take out the Montreal Lions 3-1. Great game by Kim and Grace. They took the women's sets to give the Lions the one-set win, but after that, the United team just took the rest of it. Great game by Matt. We weren't sure if he was going to be playing today after the seemed like concussion symptoms came back last night, so he had to miss the last game, but he's wearing a hat today, seems to be playing really, really well, seems to be feeling okay, so we'll keep you posted on that one. And then, even though I wasn't 100% focusing on the other game, the Brewers and the Smash did go to the extra singles game for the win. Jeff Elwood, who was, if you recall from the Eastern split, who was dominating everybody in singles, met his match with Chris Elaine. Chris Elaine got the better of him for that one. The rest of the matchups were pretty even, but with Chris Elaine taking most of the points in the matchup against Jeff, the Smash got the 15-11 win, so they win that game 3-2. Up next, we got the Rush, the Wolverines, the Pronghorns, and the Rollers all playing, so we'll keep you up to date, and I'll figure out which game I'm going to focus on for that one. All right, stay tuned. All right, everybody. So after the Rollers finally got off the snide, they got the first win. Took a 3-1 win over the Wolverines, who had been undefeated so far this week. So if you're going to meet a team for your first win, that's the team to beat. By far their best game I've seen them play throughout the 2 events. And they had Rob in today instead of Corey, and Rob played really well. But the match started off with Jessica and Emma taking down Angie and Vicky, and kind of just flowed from there. They all played really, really well. The Pronghorns right now are up 3-0 on the Rush. All the games in that one have been competitive. They've all been like 15-13, 15-14 wins, but the Pronghorns have sealed the win with the 3-0, and they're just finishing off the 4th set here. And the Rush are up 10-9 at this moment, so we'll check in a little bit later for the next games coming up. All right, so we were focusing on the Brewers versus the Lions. So both teams switched up their lineups for that match. You had the Brewers switch up their group. So instead of Christina and Mark playing together like they usually do, Christina played with Jeff and Mark played with Susan, and it worked out really well. They won both of the mixed matches in that. The Lions had changed up their lineup too. Kim was playing with Eric and Cam was playing with Grace. Kim and Eric didn't do too bad, but the Grace and Cam, I think they just need to play a little bit more together because they weren't really in sync that well. So the Brewers took that one. And then on the other side, just had a nail-biter match with the Toronto Smash and Toronto United playing. Toronto United went up early, and then the Smash came back and forced the singles overtime. And it was really close, but thanks to Matt Quanamoto taking advantage of Chris Elaine in that one, they pulled out the win, so they win that one 3-2. So we got another match coming up here. We got the Rollers versus the Rush, and the Pronghorns versus the Wolverines. So two really good matchups coming up. I'm going to try to watch both, but we'll see how it goes. All right, hey everyone. So we just finished an amazing game between the Prairie Pronghorns and the West Coast Wolverines. Game went to the Dream Breaker singles, and final score was 15-13. An insane rally at the end there between Joel and Maddie. I suggest going on the YouTube channel and watching that, even if it's just the singles match. But all the matches in that were really great. On the other side, we had the Rush take out the Rollers, I want to say in 4 straight. Rush have seemed to have found their footing now after a little bit of a shaky start yesterday, but they seem to be rolling pretty well now. On the court right now, we got the Rush versus the Lions and the Rollers versus the Smash. So I'll get watching those, and I'll update you after that. All right, we're back. So the 2 games that just ended, we had the Northern Rollers get their second win on the season versus the Toronto Smash. Toronto Smash went up 2-0 early in the game with the wins in both the men's and women's doubles, but then the Rollers came back and forced it to the tiebreaker with wins in both mix. Great showing by both Emma and Jessica in that leading the charge in the singles. They pulled out the 15-10 win. Jonas was also very good in the singles match. So that gives them 2 on the year, finishing off the Smashers night. Smash are done for the day. Montreal is also done for the day. They just lost to the Rush. The Rush are rolling pretty well now. I think they took 4 straight or a 3-1. I was focused more on the Rollers game, so I missed that. I'll go back and double check. But so we got 4 games left. We got the Pronghorns versus United, and then we got the Brewers versus the Wolverines to start, and then we got 2 more games later tonight, but I'll catch up on those when we get to them. All right, everyone. So the Toronto United finished their last game against the Pronghorns and took it 3-1. All the sets were super close, but the United pulled out the win there. On the other side, it was the Wolverines versus the Brewers, and Wolverines took the full 4-0. Brewers just seem to be having a tough weekend this weekend. So Brewers and the United are done. So we got 2 more matches to finish off the night. We got the Rush versus the Wolverines and the Pronghorns versus the Rollers. So we'll tune in after that. All right, so we're going to do a little bit of a different format for this now that we've gone through the live updates. I'm going to go through each team and kind of do the team's kind of story for the weekend, and then we'll do like the full kind of overall storylines and the review. So we're going to start with the Toronto Smash. So the Toronto Smash, the big theme the first day was the alternates playing. Both Chris and Dalbeer weren't there. Dalbeer apparently had a kid from what I heard from talking to other people. So congratulations, Dalbeer, on the new addition to your family. And that's totally understandable why you missed it. Chris missed the first day, but was there for the second day. But the first day, the alternates stepped up. Brent Jackson and Connor Weeks filled in, and they did a pretty admirable job. They held their own pretty decently. They did get a win. It was noticeable, though, that it was a bit of a step down. Like nothing against Brent and Connor, but when you're an alternate, you're filling in. You're not quite at that same caliber yet, and it was noticeable. Like the Rush, the first event were 5-2. This event they finished 2-5 for the weekend. The one highlight, though, for Connor and Brent by far probably was taking out Joel and Haddo of the Wolverines in the men's match. They won that match. They did lose the match at the end, but pulling out that upset win against that strong men's doubles team was a big was a big accomplishment for them. When Chris Allain came back on the Sunday, so then Connor stayed in and Brent was acted as the alternate. Played very strong. All the games were super, super tight. They managed one more win, but just couldn't quite get over the hump. One of the best matches they did though was against the Toronto United team that went to the Dream Breaker singles. And when Chris Allain came back, he was taking over pretty well when it went down to singles game. They took out the Brewers, and he owned Jeff Elwood pretty well. But when he had to go up against Matt Quanamoto, Matt got the better of him there, and United pulled out the win. So not the best, not the finish the Rush probably wanted with the weekend, especially now that this is really deciding seeding going into the championship weekend. So yeah, they finished 2-5. So on the weekend they finished with a 7-7 record, which drops them down to sixth place when they were sitting at basically like first or second at the end of the first one. But that's what happens when you're missing two big key pieces. But overall, a good matches for them. They, like I said, they kept it competitive. It's not like they were any blowout losses, but like you could see that they were lacking that extra punch from missing Chris and Dalbier. So hopefully they have them both back for the championship weekend, because then even though they're, like I said, they're down to sixth place, they're going to be a force to contend with in those playoff games. All right, so we're on to the Montreal Lions. So probably not the weekend they wanted out of this. They finished 1-6. Their only win came against the Rollers, and like good things to take out of this weekend. Grace Thomas played a lot better than what she did the first weekend. She seemed a little bit in over her head that first Eastern split, but she played so much better this weekend. Big props to her. She was a lot more formidable. Kim didn't have to help her out as much in the women's doubles, and they were pretty formidable in the women's doubles matches. But as the weekend went on, I said it on the last podcast when we covered this, that they needed another male alternate. Eric, you could see, was gassing out, and then Cam's then trying to do too much to overcompensate for it. So Cam's making mistakes or taking shots he probably shouldn't take. Once again, on the second day, they switched the teams up. They did Kim and Eric and Cam and Grace, and I don't know why they did that switch up. It didn't work the last time they did it. The better grouping for them is Cam and Kim and Grace and Eric. But yeah, they almost need, like I said before, after the first weekend, they almost needed like a male alternate to rotate with Eric. So, because like he's a good player, he plays 50 pro in the States, but when you're playing against guys who are my age or younger, or majority of them are my age or younger, it's just the reaction times are a little bit quicker. They're a little bit faster. They're not going to gas out as quickly. So, even though Eric's a very, very good player, like he's a better player than me by far, you could see him gassing out, and then the frustration creeps in. You can see Cam trying to do too much to try and make up for Eric gassing out. Definitely not the weekend they wanted. You could see they were visibly upset with their performance, especially after their last game. So hopefully they can pull it together and put on a good fight, but they're going to be in tough. They're 3-11 on the season, so that means they're in second last place. So they're taking on a very, very tough team in that playoff spot. So it's going to be tough. They have a puncher's chance of winning a round in the playoffs, but it's going to be one of those things. This is the first year, so it's a learning experience for when it comes for owners drafting, especially drafting themselves when they are in that 50+ range. You're like these players want to win. These players are being paid. They're being paid to play. They get bonuses for finishing higher in the standings, going further in the playoffs, winning the championship. Like, so I feel bad for like Kim, for Cam, for some of those other players that are on other teams like this. It's just, you need to sometimes check the ego. And like I said, even if Eric and if they got a younger alternate and they rotated games, because then Eric would stay fresh. That's my opinion on that. Like I said, 1-6 on the weekend. That's the worst record for the weekend. They still managed to stay above the Rollers, but not by much. All right, so we'll go down to the bottom. The Northern Rollers. So they're finishing last. They went 0-7 in the first one. They did go 2-5 this weekend, which yes, I'm so happy that they got a win, and they got a second win almost right away, right after that. And their first win came against the team that was undefeated as the weekend was going up until that point. They took out the Wolverines. Like if you're talking about a David versus Goliath match, that's the one. And they didn't even go to singles. They won 3-1. So props to them for that win. Jessica and Emma played amazing in that game. Jonas played really, really well, and Rob was in that day because that was on the Sunday when they won. Um, and Rob played really, really well as well. But once again, like Corey and Rob are very, very good players, but like you're finishing with a 2-12 record on the season. And then you're going to have to play against the number one team because you finished in 8th in the playoffs. And like, yes, you took out the Wolverines in that game where basically your players played the best game they played the entire season to pull that off. And all the games were still very, very close. It wasn't like they blew them out. So like I said for the Lions one, I know it's the first year and it's their team. They can do what they want with it, but once again, these players are being paid to play. They get paid more. There's more stuff. The better they finish in the season, the further they go in the playoffs. And of course, if you win, you get extra cash as well. So these players obviously want to win. They're motivated just obviously for the limelight itself, but monetary wise as well. So like it's almost like the CNPL needs to do a 50+ league for these players because like I said, they're good players. They're better than me. Like no way in chance right now with the skill level that I'm at could I beat any of these older players. But it shows when they play like the Rush, when they play the Brewers, when they play normally the Wolverines, or the Toronto United team, for example. It's just you can see the difference in the age. Like the age is showing through. And like I said, Rob is a very good player. Corey is a very good player. And I do like the fact that they change it up and they switch. Like Corey plays the one day, Rob plays the other day. So they give they're rested, but like you need to give Jessica and Emma more help. Like the two of them are such good players. They did their job every single time. If they didn't win the women's match, that match was so close, and they had a chance to win every single women's match they were in. So. I just kind of feel bad for Jonas, for Emma, for Jessica because like as much as like I said, as good of players as they are, there's so many good players that weren't drafted in this draft that I've seen play at nationals, that I've seen play in Alberta provincials, even then you've seen their records at like the Quebec provincials, the East regionals and stuff like that. There's so many good players that didn't get drafted that you could have given your team a better shot. You're playing against the number one team come playoffs. You have a puncher's chance of winning it, but like I will be surprised. Like if there was money betting on this, I wouldn't be betting a win for them. Like if you wanted, it'd be like it's almost the equivalent of going for the lottery. If you were to bet for the Rollers to win their first round matchup in the playoffs. So I don't want to see them too down. Like I said, they play their 2 wins. They played amazingly. It's by far the best games I've seen them play. Jessica and Emma were stellar. Jonas played amazing. Rob played really, really well those games. But like once again, their last game they got blown out 4-0 against like the third ranked team. So like it's one of those things where like unless you can maintain that precision, it's not. It's like yeah, a win here and there is nice, but like realistically, for the Lions and the Royals, a 3-11 record, a 2-12 record in a pro league is not very good. And like I said at the beginning when the draft first happened, like it's going to come back to bite you. Having players that age. Like, there's a reason why when you go to the US, there's a 50 plus pro league and then there's the open league. Yes, there's some 50-year-olds playing in that, but they are in insane shape and they look almost indistinguishable from other pro players. But like, it's not like, I know there's teams have to lose, but I would have liked to see at least from like 4 to 8, a lot more even records there, showing you that like anyone could win any single time. But like championship week and the first round matches, the 1 versus 8 and the 2 versus 7, you can almost like not watch. Like, I want to watch. I'm gonna watch because it's high level pickleball and it's awesome to watch. But it's frustrating. You just feel for those other players who, like, they signed up to try and win. They wanted to win. They wanted to win, to go to the finals. And after the first week, you knew they were pretty much toast. They went 0-7 the first week, and then you come to the second week and they play out of their minds, and they still only went 2-5. So, okay, that's enough on that. Like I said, Emma and Jessica played amazing this weekend. Jonas played very, very well. Rob played really well. Corey played well as well, but like I said, they were no match for these stronger teams. All right, so moving on to the Prairie Pronghorns. So we had the debut of Brad Chapman, who's one of the top-rated players in Canada, coming in for this one. The Pronghorns started off pretty strong. They finished the weekend on a 4-3 record, so the same record that they had the previous week. So they're 8-6 on the weekend. The thing that's going to bump them into the third place is that they win the tiebreaker versus the Brewers. So really, really good matches. The ones they lost, there was a singles one they lost to the Wolverines. Their other losses were all very, very close fought matches. Like, even it was a winning record, 4-3. They probably would have liked to be more of a 5-2 or even a 6-1 in some of those games, but overall, very, very promising look. The more Brad and Maddie play together, the better they're going to be. Pam and Kim already play really, really well together, and it's one of those ones where it could go either way for some of those matches that they lost. So I don't have a lot of extra things to say. Brad Chapman was Brad Chapman. The one surprising thing was because Brad normally doesn't play singles, at least any other tournaments I've been to where he's been playing, he hasn't gone in singles. So seeing him play in singles for some of those Dreammaker matches was interesting, but you could tell that he doesn't play in comparison to some of the players who had played in the previous week, where they got the taste of the single game, and you could tell they went home and worked on it in between the Eastern split and the Western split, because there was a lot more hard drives and precision shots from some of the players that didn't look too good at the Eastern split, but clearly went and worked on that because of the possibility of the tiebreakers for this one. So that might be something Brad will work on leading up, but in his doubles play, it's Brad Chapman. He's a very, very insanely good player. Yeah, so not much else to go on the Pronghorns. They played a solid weekend. And like I said, all their matches that they lost were so close that it could have, even each set could have gone either way. So I'm really looking forward to their matchup. They're going to be probably playing the Smash in the playoffs, so that's going to be an insanely good matchup to watch come the playoffs. But we'll get more into that at the end here. All right, so I'm going on to the Brewers. So slowly becoming one of my favorite teams, just because I got to meet Christina and Mark in when I was at Nationals. But once again, super, super friendly pair. Very, very exciting to watch on the court. For the Brewers, probably not the weekend they wanted. They finished 3-3, and they finished with an 8-6 record, which puts them in fourth place at the end of the season. I know probably one of those games for sure they want back, especially against the Toronto United team. But a little hot and cold. They did on the Sunday switch up the pairs. Normally it's Christina and Mark playing, and Jeff and Susan playing together, but they switched it up on the Sunday, and it did help for the first little bit. But for me, Susan this weekend was a little bit hot and cold. She had matches where she played very, very strong, and then other ones where you could see, I don't know if she injured herself or if she was just tired. It just seemed like she was like a half step slow. Because especially I noticed in there was a few games there where, especially in the women's doubles, Christina was taking more of the court, or it looked like she felt like she needed to take more of the court. Like normally they do like a good, I'd say 70-30 split with Christina taking the 70. But there was a game there that they were playing where Christina was doing like a 90-10. So they were trying to shield Susan a little bit there. So I don't know if there was an injury. I don't know if she just got gassed or what. But yeah, she was a little bit of a step slower. Um, for Jeff, who was like the standout player at the Eastern split, came a little bit back down to earth. He still played very, very well in the doubles and stuff, but he ran into some tough competition who I think learned from him spanking them at the Eastern split. These players definitely went and practiced their singles because Chris and Lane kind of took his lunch money when they played against each other, and then Matt Quanamoto played lights out when they played as well. So if for the Brewers, like I said, there's probably one or two games there that they'd probably want back. You could tell they were a little disappointed. They were still a very positive team. That's the one thing I really like about this team is they're super, super positive with each other. They don't seem to get super upset or super frustrated too much. But you could tell by the end of the weekend and also like midway through Sunday that they were not quite happy with a 3-3 split. But like I said, they finish 8-6. They're fourth overall. So they're probably going to end up playing the Toronto United team in the playoffs, and that is going to be a tough match for both teams. Like, if you want to watch a matchup that's going to be balls to the walls, that is going to be the one to watch come playoff time. But yeah, so the Brewers, aside from like one game for sure, I think they should have had. I don't know if they were gassed because it was the last game of the night, or if they went in underestimated because of the alternate coming in for the United team. But definitely, probably they wanted that game back. But yeah, other than that, they played very, very well. Christina was pretty much steady the whole way through. Mark was pretty steady the whole way through. Like I said, the biggest one that was noticeable was like Susan. So I don't know, and they actually just announced that they added a person to their team as of me recording this. So like I said, I don't know if that's just in there just in case Susan's rehabilitating or something like that. But yeah, just especially on the Sunday, it seemed like she had lost a bit of a step. So hopefully it's not an injury, and hopefully it was just maybe she just slept wrong or something like that. That can happen with athletes and in sports. So, but like they still finished, like I said, finished off strong, 3-3, 8-6 record on the year. Like I said, tough matchup come playoffs, but we'll see how they do. I got faith in these guys. All right, so the West Coast Wolverines. So going into Sunday, they were undefeated. They were playing lights out. Joelle and Haddle were probably one of the hardest men's pairs to beat. Angie and Vicky were on fire. That first day they were like I said, lights out. Second day they had a pretty big hiccup against the Northern Rollers. There's my stutter coming in. They lost that one, and it wasn't even in singles. They lost that 3-1. The Rollers, like credit to them, like they played lights out. That was by far the best game I've ever seen the Rollers play. But honestly, for a team that's number one, number two going into this, and then they lost the women's doubles. They lost, I think they won the men's doubles, but then they lost both mixed matches. They probably want that game back for sure, and that game actually probably cost them first overall, because the only other loss they had was against the Rush, and that game was literally for who gets first place. Because if the Rush were to win, they win the tiebreaker because the Rush beat them in the Eastern split. So if they hadn't lost that game to the Rollers and they won as they probably should have won, even that loss to the Rush wouldn't have knocked them out of first spot place. But so they finished the week on a 5-2 record. So that's 5-2, 5-2 both weekends. So 10-4 on the year. That's going to get them into second place because, like I said, the Rush win the tiebreaker. But aside from that, like I said, hiccup against the Rollers. Stellar weekend for this team. Joelle is as strong as ever. Hato is like super consistent as ever. Vicky's drops seem to be getting better and better. every time she plays. And Angie, when she inserts herself into the rallies, especially in the women's pair, once she gets rolling, she's very, very hard to stop. Yeah, if you watch the very last match with the Rush and the Wolverines playing, there's the one match that they won was the women's doubles, and there was a spot there where Angie just took over. It was like 5 straight points where she just stepped in and dominated. So they're going to probably be taking on the Montreal Lions, and like I said, anything can happen in sports, but expect them to move on to the second round. They should handle the Lions fairly handily, and yeah, I'm looking forward to see how they do. But very, very strong team. Hato and Joel are probably one of the hardest men's pairs to play against because not only do they play together on this team, but they consistently play together at other tournaments. They played together at nationals. They played together in the Western regionals, constantly playing together. So they probably know each other better than most men's pairs teams in this league. So, and then Angie Walker, number one pick, she's playing like it. Vicky playing very, very steadily. She's always, it's funny because it's almost like you feel like you're down talking her, but you're not. She's just super, super steady. And then when you're playing with the number one draft pick, all you have to be is super steady and kind of let them cook. So interested to see how they do come playoff time. But like I said, if they play the way they should play and the way they played for majority of this weekend, they should have no trouble handling the Montreal Lions. So. That's all for them. I know that one was super quick, but when they're playing that well, there's not much to talk. There's not much more to talk about. All right, so the Rocky Mountain Rush. So you had the debut of Nathan Choi in this one. The Rush finished the weekend with a 5-2 record. That was good, and the final game they won got them into first place. So big kudos to that. They did lose the very first game though, and with Nathan coming in not having played the previous split. You could see, I don't want to say nerves because he didn't look nervous, but there was hesitation there. Like I think still feeling out the partnership with Casey Rogers there. But after that game, Nathan was pretty much lights out. By far has the hardest slam I've ever seen him. He's a former high level badminton player, and you can tell for when he slams that ball. And throughout the week, him and Brett Forsyth got a better and better and better as a men's pair as they learned how to read each other better and who takes which shot where and stuff like that. Alex Walker and Casey were steady, like very dynamic pair. They could switch it up on who played which side, whose paddle was in the middle when they wanted to, and it wasn't like either one of them was giving an inch. So very, very fun team to watch play. Both Brett, Casey, and Nathan are very, very emotional style players. So you see lots of big cheers, lots of big hoops and yelling when they score big points from big rallies and stuff like that, which makes it super entertaining. Like I said, and I know I said at the beginning of the podcast that I'm sponsored by Nathan's the same people who sponsor Nathan now, so I don't want to come across as biased. But before that ever happened, just remember, if you go back and check the tapes for the draft, I said Nathan was probably going to be like the breakout player for the year, just because like he came. If you look at who got drafted, he came out of nowhere, and for such a late pick, it's by far when you watch him play, it's a big dynamic shift for that team, and it showed with how they played. So yeah, so they finished first overall with that win over the Wolverines on the very last match of the tournament. So they finish 5-2. So they finished 5-2 just like they did the previous week. So 10-4 record. It's identical record to the Wolverines, but because they beat the Wolverines both times in both splits, they get the tiebreaker win. So they're going to be playing the Rollers in the playoffs. And like I said when I did the Rollers review, if the Rush play their game, I don't care how good the Rollers play. They could play the best game of their lives like they did against the Wolverines. I don't think you're beating the Rush. So I have the Rush probably moving on with that. We'll get more. Like I said, we'll maybe do a playoff preview podcast the weekend before. But yeah. So very, very great playing by this team. Brett and Alex are a great pair. Casey and Nathan are a great pair. Both, and like I said, they're both super emotional players, so they feed off each other's energy. And same with when Nathan plays with Brett, feed off each other's energy. And Alex Walker is just a powerhouse and super super steady. Doesn't make very many mistakes at all. Um, and when she starts to take over a game, she really takes over a game. So great finish by them, first overall. So I have no idea what the bonuses are in the CMPL. Even though I talked to Yui and Cam and Mike while I was there, I didn't ask in-depth things like, oh, how much does the team get if they finish first, or how much do they get if they finished fourth, or anything like that. But needless to say, for entertainment value wise and winning wise, they're probably going to get a nice little bonus there. So kudos to them. All right, so the final team is the Toronto United. And the reason why I left this for last is by far the most interesting storyline for this weekend. They came in not having had a good Eastern split. I think it was like a 2-5 record, and they played lights out. Matthew Quanamoto was showing why he's like the highest rated player in Canada, and the debut of Mark Gottfried. So his brother Daniel played for him in the Eastern split because he was away, but by far a stronger player than his brother Mark is, and you could tell with just the dynamic of the way they played. The other alternate they had playing was Carolina Hack was in for this one, and honestly, she is a little powerhouse. Her and Hannah Blatt playing together, it was like so Carolina's a lefty, Hannah's a righty. They both have an insanely strong backhand hit, so it didn't matter where you put the ball, it was coming back at you. I didn't know what to expect when I saw that it was announced that she was playing, and because she's from the East Coast and I hadn't seen her play before. But geez, if I had known that, I would have said, "Wow, other teams are in trouble." And they handled the women's doubles pretty well. They didn't get beat by very many teams. Obviously, they went 6-1. They a few of those games didn't go to the Dreambreaker match, but that was where Carolina, especially, and Matt Sean shined. Um, it was insane. Another big storyline with this team is just before the second last game of the Saturday night, you could tell something was up with Matt. He wasn't playing like his usual self, and it sounded like hearing from his family that was there and from the coaches and stuff. Was recovering from the previous year from a concussion, and I think the bright lights in the stadium were bugging him to the point where it was bringing some symptoms back. So he actually couldn't play the last game. So an emergency alternate came in. And funny enough, it was Pam Clark of the Pronghorns. Her husband Dave Clark got pulled from the crowd and got to play. And there was chance of MVP Dave because he played his butt off. It was against the Brewers, and the Brewers probably, like I said, probably want this one back. But the United pulled out the win with Dave playing insanely well as an alternate who you could tell he was like deer in the headlights when that match first started, but he settled into his role really well and played insane. At the end of Saturday, they weren't sure if Matt was going to be able to come back and play, but he managed to sleep it off, came back the next day wearing a ball cap to help with the lighting issue, and was just on fire after that. Very intense player to watch. Very strong player. Like I said, you can tell why he's one of the highest rated players in Canada. And Hannah Blatt played amazing. Carolina played amazing. Mark played amazing. 6-1. That propels them all the way up to fifth place with an 8-6 record. So they have the exact same record as the Brewers and the Pronghorns, just losing the tiebreaker for points and stuff like that. But if that's the team you're going to see in the playoffs, the match between them and the Brewers is going to be insane. That's probably one of the matches I'm looking forward to most because either team can win that. And then I feel bad for the team that has to play them next. So yeah, huge props to United. Like I said, probably one of the best storylines with Matt going down, Dave jumping in, Carolina coming in and playing her amazing, going 6-1, and yeah, like just an insanely great weekend for them. Props to the United team. Props to so Matt's sister Jessica also plays on the rollers. If I forgot to say her last name before, but props to the Quanimoto family for coming, and they had signs up. They were cheering for both the kids playing. So so yeah, so you could hear the chants of "Let's Go United, Let's Go Rollers" throughout the whole weekend. And just a very this team is a very enjoyable team to watch. They just play very well, and the firefights that they get into are intense. So for like I said, finished off with the best record, and that's actually the best record of any team, either the Eastern or Western split. The best record before that was 5-2. So the only team to ever so far finish 6-1 on a split. So like I said, finished in fifth, so they got the Brewers come playoff time, and that's going to be a great match to watch.
Rush forcing a timeout here, up 9-7. So, as a player, Andrew, coming into this environment, and I know you participated in the draft qualifier in Vernon. So, talk about, the experience of going to that, and then now seeing the fruition of where this has gotten to in the second event here.
It's been so great. Like going to the plains in Vernon, just playing against some of those higher level players. Like I got to play against Nathan in that, and needless to say, he spanked me pretty good. But just watching all the people that came out for that, and then watching how we got the top tier people playing in this now, just the jump in skill level and the jump in intensity has been insane to watch.
All right, so for the split as a whole, so great venue at the Expo Center. It was a little cold the first day. Me and Irene ended up bringing a blanket in the second day just to stay warm. Irene unfortunately didn't get in. She was an alternate on there because there was lots of teams that had a male alternate but didn't have a female alternate. So we were kind of sitting there well, we hope no one gets hurt, but we kind of want some to maybe have a cramp up so Irene could get in. But she didn't get in. Got to warm up quite a bit, and we got to watch some insanely good matches. One thing we did notice that the lighting was a big issue. That the arena is normally where the Edmonton Stingers of the CLB play. That's the Canadian Elite Basketball League. And the lighting for when you're playing a sport where you're looking up at lobs or high shots and stuff, the lights were very bright. A lot of players the second day switched to having ball caps on or had taken their glasses off and stuff like that just because of the glare and stuff like that. Like Matt Quanimoto was wearing a hat. Jeff Elwood switched to wearing a hat. A few of the other players, Brad Chapman took off his glasses that he normally wears just because he says there was basically a glare line coming through. So that was probably the biggest negative. The players did mention that they still used the same surface that they had in the Eastern split. There was a few more dead spots this time, and there was a few times when you watch a match you could see where it affected the player's shot. But other than that, the venue was great. Irene got to eat for free because she was there as a player. I got to meet lots of amazing people. Got to chat with Yui, Cam, and Mike, who are the founders of the CMPL. I got to chat with Emily's dad, so shout out to Mr. Lee. I had a great 40-minute conversation with him just about how the pickleball works in Quebec and stuff like that. Very nice man. Very generous with his time. A lot of the locals who came out to watch, me and Irene had played with before, so that was fun. Like I said, talking to the Quanimoto family when we were checking on Matt's status and stuff like that. Great family to talk to. So, and then sitting there and watching the matches. So, like I said at the beginning of the podcast, it's a lot harder when you're trying to be analytical about stuff to sit there live because in the corner of your eye you're catching that other match going on, and because all the matches this weekend were so intense and the rallies were so good, it was very hard to stay focused on the one match you were sitting in front of. So like I said, I went back and I looked at a lot of the videos of the updates I did, and I deleted a few because I basically said, oh yeah, this team won and this team won. Just because that's all I could kind of muster because I couldn't sit there, and unlike when I watched it online because I just have the one match in front of me, it's easier to kind of pick apart analytically what's going on. So I'll be back to the analytical stuff for the playoffs because unless something happens where I can get there for cheap, I won't be able to get to Mississauga for where the playoffs are. So It's a long way from Peace River, Alberta. But no, yeah, all the members of the CMPL were great to talk to. I got to talk a lot to the players. I got to talk to Mark of the Brewers. I got to talk to Brad. I got to talk to Maddie of the Pronghorns as well, who said, "Hey, love the podcast stuff." So thank you, Maddie, for that shout out when you came and saw me. And yeah, like I said before, when I was mentioning the Aniviia thing, I got to meet Nathan Choi and Christina Fan. Very, very nice people. I'm still kind of I couldn't really believe that it was happening with the sponsorship thing until Nathan showed up and gave me the bag and gave me the paddles and stuff like that. So super excited about that. So even though Irene didn't get to play, a few of the volunteers who were buddies with pickleball buddies with are members of the Pickleball Hub in St. Albert. So after the games were over at like 9:30, we went to the hub and played until like 2 a.m. So we still got our pickleball in, which was really fun. Shout out to the Pickleball Hub in St. Albert. That is an awesome place to play. So if you're from that area, get a membership for there and go play. It's a very, very chill and relaxed. There's people go there, you can tell that they've never played before, but they're just having a good time. Then there's other spots where there's very serious players playing. So it's just a good all-around pickleball thing. They got music, they got lounge chairs and stuff like that. Very, very awesome place to go see. And so yeah, so the other big thing that happened was, so the very last match, the Wolverines versus the Rush, Yui flags me down from the stands and says, "Hey, do you want to be on the broadcast?" So I honestly, as someone who originally started this podcast kind of for like a half fun, half serious thing, that was like a pipe dream to be able to like broadcast a match. So given the opportunity to do it, I said yes. Honestly, I was sweating buckets before I even, like, by the time I walked down onto the main floor towards the booth and stuff, was sweating buckets, just super nervous. And then the funny thing was, I sat down, put the headset on, and I'm looking to my side, and Cam Taylor, who's one of the founders of the CMPO, who does the majority of the commentary, wasn't there. He had gone off. I don't know if to eat or to use the bathroom, whatever, but the match had started, and the guy doing the cameras and all the sound stuff looked at me and goes, "You good to go?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." So I got to do the whole first set and halfway through the second set by myself. So if you want to hear me broadcasting, go to the CNPL YouTube channel and go to the Sunday games. And the very, very last game, the Rush versus the Wolverines, you'll hear me on there doing commentary. And then when Cam came back, we had some really good back and forth comments and stuff like that. So I had a blast doing that. So Mike, Cam, Yui, if you're watching this at all and you want to fly me out to Mississauga, I would gladly come and do that again. Super, super fun. And the thing I liked is that I felt like I didn't freeze up. I re-listened to the broadcast after, and I was happy with how I did. Didn't stutter very much. And when Cam asked me like actual pickleball questions, I was able to answer and I thought give pretty good answers. So, and then as far as I thought I did a decent job at the color commentary. I wasn't sure how loud or how excited I was to get, but thanks, kind of playing off of how Cam's energy was going, it made it a little bit easier for me to figure out what I needed to do for that. So, had a blast doing that, and it was one of the best matches of the weekend to do. It was a super intense. Like I said, it was like a battle for first place. Basically, whoever won that got first. So seeing the stakes elevated like that and seeing the players get really into it, you saw some stare downs. You saw some a little bit of like playful trash talk back and forth. It was a super fun match to be a commentator on. So big thank you for the CNPL for asking me to do that. Like I said, I'll gladly do it again. And so moving on to the play as a whole, if you compare this to the Eastern split, these games were so much more intense. The first weekend, it was like kind of like everyone's happy, but like we're still playing hard, but there's pretty good banter. There's like fun banter going back and forth, and everyone's kind of having a good time. This weekend, it started to set in that, hey, this is a pro league. We're being paid, we're getting paid, and there's bonuses for playing better. So you saw teams actually scout each other teams, play different strategies. Like the entire Eastern split, when there was the Dream Breaker singles, it was always guy versus guy, girl versus girl. There was so many matches this time where there was a strategy where they had a guy play a girl to try and get the points. And some of the and like there was one where Hannah Blatt played one of the gentlemen and owned him, which was awesome to see as well. So that was really neat. And like I said, just the intensity levels of the games alone, like the players were still very chummy after games were over and stuff like that, but while the game was on, there was almost that hatred in their eyes and the way they were playing against each other. So if I were to compare it to the Eastern split to the Western split, if you're looking for like better games, better emotion, the Western split had it all. Every single game, there was a big emotional moment or a big emotional outburst from a player for making a point. Big shout out to, like I said, to the alternates who stepped up and filled in those spots and played very valiantly, especially on the rush with the two guys for Dave Clark with the United team, especially with that last minute. But yeah, the games were awesome. Like if you're in Mississauga, like anyone in Mississauga listening to this or anywhere around that region, if you're in the area and you're a pickleball fan at all, get your tickets and go watch those playoff games. CMPL's not paying me to say that. That's just from my experience watching those games in Edmonton. Like I said, like the commentating one, I was shaking after that game because that game was so intense, and because I was able to focus on that one game, I could feed off the emotion from the players and stuff like that. And like when you're sitting there with like we were sitting right across from the Quantamoto family, and every time they were cheering for when Matt or Jessica were playing, it pulled you in. Like the atmosphere is very very good, and so I can't wait until say a year like next year when they do it again. For when they start getting like there was a really good turnout for this one. There was lots of people there. But I could only imagine if you could fill up even half of that arena with fans watching, how electric that atmosphere would be. Like the atmosphere was already very good, especially if you're familiar with pickleball and how pickleball works. But it was just an insanely fun time. The other thing that got introduced is the double freeze for this event. They didn't do a double freeze in the East. So the East split, what it was is it froze at 14 if you got to 14. Then the other team could slowly catch up. You could only score that 15th point on your last shot. But they could get all the way up to 14 to tie you, and then it was a double freeze. This time what they did is if one team got to 14, the other team could catch up until they got to 13. This was a change they made, and I actually like this change better because it forces the team that's catching up from behind to earn that 14th point to get it to the next point wins type scenario. So I like that little change that the CNPL implemented. You'll probably see that the rest of the way on. Big shout out to all the referees. I know a bunch of them because a bunch of them are from Alberta, and they've either reffed me or I've played. There's one or two we've played against. But they did an awesome job. And it was double. It was two referees each match. Yes, there's going to be some line calls that are a little bit controversial. There was probably at least 3 or 4 each day. They did a great job handling that, and big shout out for them. Hopefully they had a really fun time with that as well. So yeah, for me, an insane weekend. Like I said, we weren't even originally gonna go because of work, and then when Irene got the call to be the alternate, I was like, okay, I'll make it work at work. So I managed to cut some deals, pull some strings to get us there, and then so even though like I said, Irene didn't get to play, we got to watch amazing matches. Got to meet Nathan and Christine from Aniviia, and then I got to do broadcast. I don't know. Like I said when I first mentioned this, it was kind of a pipe dream to like do that, but like ever since I've been playing competitive sports, and once you get to a level and you know you're not going to be pro, like I used to play college basketball and I knew I probably wasn't getting any higher than that. For me, who's someone who loves sports as much as I do, that was always kind of like a pipe dream. Like I had my job and my stuff that I need to run in my family that I need to deal with and stuff like that. But that's always kind of like, oh, hey, if I had like I could be this for a day type of thing. That was one of the things that was on kind of like my bucket list. So the fact that I got to kind of live that out and the match was that good, was really really fun. I know my daughter who was at my daughter and my son who were at my mom and dad's house while we were there that weekend because Irene texted them real quick and saying, "Hey, Andrew's going to be in the booth." They turned it on, and apparently my daughter was like on cloud nine, and my son was enjoying it as well. So that was a really cool moment for me. Super enjoyed it, and like I said, I wish I could make it to Mississauga to watch that live, to cheer on the players, to like get to chat with them and stuff again. I haven't done any player interviews yet. I'm not at a spot where I feel super comfortable with that, but I do go up and talk to the players. So nothing that they say to me is what I would consider like on the record. But I got to have good chats with, like I said, like Maddie from the Pronghorns. I got to chat with Mark from the Brewers. I got to chat a little bit with Brad Chapman, a few other players as well, some players, family and friends, and then of course members of the CNPL, Yui, Cam, and Mike. So I'm not quite at the point where I'm ready for an interview yet, but I can foresee that happening eventually in the future. But right now, I'm just enjoying being able to walk up and just have a very good chat with the players, kind of get the gist of how they're feeling, how the feeling is around the event and stuff like that. So I like how I've gotten that kind of inside information. Like I said, the lighting was an issue, but you could tell, like I said, talking to the players, you could tell the intensity had picked up and that they were actually scouting other teams, saying, okay, who should we hit to, or what in this situation, what should we do, and things like that. You got to see more strategic stuff. They had there's a few more coaches on the floor this time who were calling timeouts and getting the players settled down. Shout out to Tracy from the Rush, who did an amazing job with the Rush team this weekend. But just so much, like I said, this event was so fun. If you're a pickleball fan at all, and if you've ever watched like a PPA event or a few matches on YouTube, watching it live is so much better. And I'm assuming it's the same for all other big sports. I have managed to luck out and watch a hockey game, an NHL game, watch an NBA game, and yeah, compared to watching it on TV, yes, there's things I like about watching it on TV or on YouTube and stuff like that. There's certain things that you can get that you don't get from being there live, but the atmosphere alone and being that close to the players, watching their reactions, kind of feeding off that reaction was just so much fun. Like I said, if I could get to Mississauga, I would. If they asked me to get in the booth again, I would, just because that weekend is going to be so intense. It's like it's the do or die now. So if it's like you lose, you go home type of thing. So excited to see who wins that. My top three picks for that is probably, actually, you know what? It's 1 to 5, or even 1 to 5, and even 1 to 6 a little bit. It's very hard to pick a clear winner. Like if I'm gonna give a advantage to, it's probably the Rush and the Wolverines to start, but the Brewers, the Pronghorns, and the United, and then even a little bit the Smash. Any one of those teams could come in and get hot and just take out the competition. So I'm just really looking forward to this weekend, or for that weekend when it comes up at the end of the month here. So one other announcement, me and Irene probably have one more tournament coming up. They're doing a grand opening for the new EVP Center, or sorry, the Calgary Pickleball Center in Calgary. It's a sister location to the EVPC Center in Edmonton. So Irene's friends reached out to her and asked us if we wanted to come down and play, and it's the Thanksgiving long weekend. So we're in for that one. So you'll get to, if you're there, if you're interested about the Aniviia stuff, I will be decked out in the Aniviia stuff, and I will have some demo paddles if you want to check those out. If not, go to the website. And one more time for the podcast listeners, if you want to get stuff from Aniviia and get a discount, it's AGorman15 at the checkout, and you get 15% off. So I'm not used to doing the commercial stuff, so this is a new thing, but I'm super excited for that. And I do have a new mic and stuff that my family got me for the podcast. I haven't got it all quite set up yet, so that's why I'm still using this one, but hopefully I have it set up for the next one and a little bit more sounds, and I might actually have some sound effects to play with too. So Thanks everyone for listening in. Thanks for if it wasn't for everyone listening and getting the message out for this podcast, I probably wouldn't have a sponsorship. I probably wouldn't be gotten to do the broadcast thing with the CNPL. So thank you for that. And if you have any friends or anything like that who you think might be interested in the podcast, send them a link. Like I said, we're on the you could be listening to me on the audio, or you could be watching the video on YouTube. Just keep on listening, and we'll see you guys leading up to the CNPL Championship weekend, which will be the next podcast. So not sure if I'll do like a quick short pre one with like maybe some predictions and stuff like that. I kind of did a few predictions in this podcast, so we might leave it at that, and we'll just do the review. But I have a few other things that tidbits that were given to me, but are not going to be released yet in regards to pickleball stuff happening in Canada. So I'll leave that little carrot out for you guys to keep listening in on the podcast. So we'll see you guys next time, and thanks for watching.
Left hand. Go up. Look at that. What a way to end it with an overhead smash. And not just an overhead smash, but a jumping overhead smash by Irene. So Irene and Andrew from East River, Alberta, gold medalists.